I'll admit it, when I first heard of this insane data breach affecting millions of people worldwide, my first thoughts were this: boy, it's a great thing I don't live in Oregon. After all, most of the headlines related to this breach were things like information from 3.5 million Oregon driver's licenses has been leaked, or that the breach had extended to 90% of the state's residents. But if there's one thing I've learned as a researcher and a publisher on the internet, it's that you don't want to take headlines at face value. Often, there's a lot more to the story. And in this case, there certainly is. I dug deeper and I discovered that I personally am at risk, and so are you. No, this is not a scare tactic, this is not hype. This is simply the truth of one of the most terrifying hacks of recent memory. So what is this hack I'm talking about? Well, it's the result of a ransomware syndicate known as Klopp. They are one of the biggest. Basically, the way that Klopp and other groups like them work is this. They basically research and identify security vulnerabilities in software. Their aim is to identify these vulnerabilities before the software companies themselves can, or before white hat researchers can. Once a vulnerability is found, these groups take advantage of it by stealing the data. They then broadcast a message to the company that they just stole the data from saying, hey, that's a whole lot of sensitive information you got there. It'd be a shame if somebody leaked it. The company, or sometimes the individual, is then in a very compromised situation. Sometimes they take the bait and pay, usually via Bitcoin, hoping that the problem goes away. More commonly, they don't pay, and the information that was stolen from them is inevitably published for the world to see. Usually the data is then published to the dark web, I'm going to show you that in a moment, and then bad actors can choose to buy the entire data set. So what was this hack specifically? This hack involved a company called MOVEIt. MOVEIt is a widely used file sharing platform. Think Dropbox and Google Cloud. My light went out, now it is back on. The trials and tribulations of being a YouTube creator. Okay, back to MOVEIt. What is particularly concerning about this hack is that MOVEIt is used by organizations that don't trust Dropbox, that don't trust Google Drive. It's used by companies and governments to share highly sensitive information. It is a very lucrative honeypot. On May 31st of 2023, the parent company of MOVEIt, Progress Software, alerted users to a breach. They issued a patch, but by then it was too late and the information from hundreds of businesses had already been stolen. The next step was for Clop, the ransomware group, to announce that it had all of this precious information and that companies had until June 14th to pay up, otherwise they would be publishing it on the dark web. And as you see on the screen here, Klopp has in fact made good on their promise and started publishing this information in batches. Ugh. Now, let me take a moment in this video to issue a personal appeal to Klopp. Hey guys, I know you're busy building your ransomware empire, but can I ask you to please hire somebody to proofread your writing? You might feel like you have more important things to do, but I think you need to clean up your messaging. It's sloppy. First off, dear companies, use a comma after this, not a period. And here you say Klopp is one of top organizations. You forgot the. You need to be saying Klopp is one of the top organizations. You want to shine, don't you? And try to be more concise by saying you offer penetration testing services. You don't need this sentence after the fact. Moving on to this paragraph, again, this is an announcement, not this is announcement. That doesn't sound good. And a lot should be 2 words, not 1. It's okay, it's a common mistake. And finally, don't tell me to relax. I'm not relaxed. You just stole my data, dude. And here it's your company, not you company. Come on guys, you can do better than this. Now, who was impacted in this hack? Short answer, we don't know for sure. The implications of this, the damage is still unfolding as I record this video. And you see on the screen here a list of companies that were impacted. One important point that I want to convey is that just because you don't see a company listed that you have an affiliation with does not mean that your personal information has not been breached. For example, the BBC was affected and they employ about 22,000 people worldwide. Now, if you look through this data dump, you might not see BBC listed anywhere, but you might see Zealous, which is the payroll provider of the BBC. Any company, even a small one, is typically using dozens of other third-party businesses to support their own. And let me give you an indication of the kind of information that is being leaked. This past Monday, the BBC sent a notification to all of its staff, including freelancers, saying that data including birth dates, home addresses, and even national insurance numbers had been leaked. And that's just disturbing to know that your national insurance number is out there somewhere alongside your home address. The BBC was also quick to say that bank account details had not been compromised and that there's no evidence that the data is being exploited, but man, we're so early in this, of course you have to assume at some point this data will be fully exploited. It is now public. And as you can see on the screen here, Klopp has indeed been keeping true to their promise. These are just some of the companies that have opted not to pay to protect themselves from this racket. Banks, government agencies, universities, the list goes on. It's unfortunately a very long one. So if you're watching this video, what can you do? There are a few things. First, you can sign up for ongoing credit and dark web monitoring. Personally, I use and recommend Aura. You'll find links to that in the video description below. A good dark web monitoring service like Aura has a high chance of notifying you if your personal information shows up somewhere on the dark web. If you're watching this and you happen to be an American, you should know that federal law gives you the right to request a credit report once every 12 months. So hit up the big 3 credit agencies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and request that report. You can also do this at freecreditreport.com. And lest I sound too US-centric here, for anybody watching this video, regardless of where in the world you are located, you should be using a good password manager. Personally, I use and recommend Bitwarden. You should be using an antivirus software. I use Malwarebytes. And you should be using a VPN when browsing the internet. I will have links to a few of them listed below. You should also understand that one day your data inevitably and unfortunately is going to appear in a data breach. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when, for all of us, including me. The video showcasing best practices is going to autoplay here. I think you'll find it very useful, and I'll see you in that video. Until then, stay safe.